Hey everybody, it's Stacy here. Welcome to Pageantry Now, and I got a great friend on, Cierra Jackson. She's going to be on in just a second, and she's going to talk all about her title, Miss Black International Ambassador, her year as a title holder, all of the crazy things she's done in pageantry. Because let's face it, she has a long list of experience. But before, stay with us right here, and I'll see you in a second. Hey everybody, welcome to Pageantry Now. I am Stacy and I am one of the hosts, and I'm so happy to have you all here. Pageantry Now is all about positivity in pageantry and being able to highlight the amazing things that title holders do using a crown and a sash. We often see the moment someone's crowned, and then we see the moment they give up their crown, but there's 364 days that happen in between. And what is that all about? And today's special guest, Cierra Jackson, is going to tell us about all of the things that happen in between, because she has a litany of titles to be able to talk about. Most importantly, her current title, Miss Black International Ambassador. But before I do that, just want to make sure that you guys all know that we are all about positivity and pageantry. And then making sure that while you are here, you can be part of the conversation, ask questions, make sure you keep them positive and PC, because we do have teenagers that watch. Hello there, Ralph. How are you? Thank you for being here. We appreciate you. And let me get Cierra in. So here we go. Hey.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so good. Thanks for being on. All right, I could talk a million miles an hour about how amazing you are, but do me a favor and introduce yourself.
Yes, so my name is Cierra Jackson. I am Miss Black International Ambassador. I'm from originally Columbus, Georgia, but actually was born in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Many people don't know that, and they don't guess it either. But I went to Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia. It is a historically Black college for women, and I also went to the Women's Campaign School at Yale University. After that, I moved to Washington, D.C. to pursue a career in politics, where I was a Running Start fellow. I worked on Capitol Hill for a congresswoman who I was also mentored by. And then I went on to the Obama White House, where I was the only intern in my class to serve the chief of staff's office as their communications intern. It was a phenomenal experience, and I got the chance to lead the interest groups that they have in the White House, specifically the ones for African Americans and African American staffers, which was really a phenomenal experience. I just had a really great time. And then after that, I competed for Miss DC America and won, competed for Miss America, and became the first woman to compete for Miss America with Afro, and also won the swimsuit competition. And I trended online for my story wearing my natural hair. After that, I did a bunch of different things in politics, worked on different campaigns, worked in political journalism, and then also was able to run for Miss District of Columbia, USA, which I won in 2020, the year of the pandemic, and then went on to be top 15 at Miss USA before competing for Miss Black International Ambassador, which I won in June of 2021 in Nassau, Bahamas. And now I am coming to the end of my reign.
Okay, I'm just gonna go now. Like, I'll see you later. Because, like, how do I even like remotely follow up with that? Oh my gosh,
You're totally fine.
We've become friends through this whole course of all of this. So
Yes.
I know her, and I could say, like, I know her. Not only do I know you here, I know you in person.
Yes, for sure. We met at Miss Universe 2019 when Chesley competed.
Yeah. So that was, and that was pretty cool for you, because you ended up working with the Miss Universe organization then. And then not only that, then went on. I mean, at that point, you'd said, "Well, I'm running for Miss DC USA," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that would be fantastic! That's a great opportunity." And then when you got crowned, I was like, "Oh my gosh, what?"
Yes. At the time, I was just competing, but then having the chance to finally come in there. And, I think it's so important for anyone who's competing to be able to see what it looks like on stage, like seeing if you want to be at Miss Universe, to go, and be in the audience and just know what it feels like. So I really feel like that was probably one of the best experiences. And I encourage anyone to be able to have an experience like that, where you just go and check out the pageant and see what it's like.
See what it's like. I mean, exactly. Hey, Cierra, your
Hey.
Sorry, Miss Sierra. We were having some technical issues, but we're so glad that you're here too. So, all right. So let's talk. Well, I've asked you this question already, so I can ask it again. But it's tradition. So, do you like frogs? Why or why not?
Do I like frogs? Yes, I do like frogs. I feel like they are they're really actually kind of cute, you know. My mom, she is in a sorority, and her sorority loves frogs. And she used to have little frogs all over the house. So yeah, I think that they're cute, just as long as they're figurines and not necessarily not in a cage in the house. That's great. So yeah.
Oh wow, I went in close. Okay, there we go. Whoa,
Uh-oh, we're really close on one another.
whoa, hold on. Let me. Do you want it up close or do you want it out?
I mean, I'm open to either one. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, we can explore options.
Yes, I love a good option.
That's the one thing I like about using StreamYard, the program I use, is because it allows a lot of different frames and it makes it look different. I mean, if I really wanted to go, if we had another person on this, I could do it like this, and then I could make you the person that's in that I mean, whatever.
No, I love this. I need to get, you have to teach me how to use StreamYard because this looks amazing.
See, there you go, like that. Now you're oh wait, I don't know how to make it shift back. Oh wait, hold on, let me see. There. You are famous and I am not. There you go.
No, you're famous too, Stacey.
Oh my gosh. Okay, totally. So welcome everybody. Also, happy Labor Day. I forgot to say that to everybody.
Yes, happy Labor Day. It's a vacation. It's a holiday in the States.
I know. So, all right. So let's talk about what got you into pageantry. Like, why do you want to do this crazy thing? And are you going to continue to do this crazy thing?
Yes. So for me, pageantry is something that was just so actually put on to me. I don't say, I guess, introduced to me more so from my mother. And I did it when I was very young until I was maybe about 5. And I always say I took time off to focus on kindergarten because I had more important things to do. but it was great, and I really don't remember any of it. So a lot of times people say that it's helpful to start when you're younger, but I don't remember a thing. If anything, it helped me only in the space of stage presence and being able to understand that and master that at a young age. But aside from like learning the tricks to the trade and everything else, I have no memory of what happened back then. So it really was only a little bit that I was able to gain from that. But really, I think what helped me was when I went to Spelman College. I was 18 years old, and there was a guy who went to my high school who's now at Morehouse, and he was a Sigma. He was a member of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, and he was able to just reach out to me and ask me like, hey, I'm throwing this pageant, putting on this pageant. Do you want to be a part of it? And I was like, sure, why not? I did it when I was younger, maybe I'll be good at it. And literally won the whole thing as a freshman. So that literally got me into pageantry. That gave me the pageant bug. And after that, I just started competing, and, I signed up for a Miss America preliminary off of a young lady who was in my class at the time who had won the same night that I won and had a Miss America keychain. And that really was what helped me just start researching it. A few months later, I signed up for my first prelim in January, and I did 4 pageants before qualifying on my 4th try, the last try, which was the last title of the season, and it was a surprise double crowner, and I won the 2nd crown.
Score! Oh my gosh. See, like now we're way up close. Okay, wait. Sorry. I'm like, wait, hold on.
So, no, you're totally fine.
Oh, see, and Ralph says you make a great addition to the Miss Earth. You would make a great addition to the Miss Earth USA pageant system.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm a little older now. I'm in the old school crew.
They have a Ms. though, because like one of my friends actually won their Ms. division.
So. They might, but I feel like it's a married one, and I'm not married yet. So
no, they have Ms. Elite, which is for.
I thought they got rid of that one.
Yeah, 28 and I think it's 28 and older. Because my friend Case, actually, one of my employees won it.
Oh wow!
She doesn't work for me anymore. She worked for me then. So
I think I know Case. Yeah, I think I know her.
You know
her. Yes.
You know Reza, her boyfriend.
Yes, I know both of them.
Yes, Case was Ms. Elite Earth USA.
I love that. Congratulations to her.
Yeah. So, I mean, but I mean, I don't know. Like, what do you think now? Like going, I know that at this point, there's still a lot of feelings because you've got what, 4 weeks left? Not even 4 weeks.
I feel like I have, I want to say maybe 5 weeks. Maybe I'm wrong. I have like this little notebook. It's not with me right now. But I have this little notebook where I have everything. And I think I'm actually at 5 weeks because I think at the end of this week will be 4. It'll be an exact month
Yeah.
from the big day, which is crazy. It's
I mean,
crazy to think about.
it's been a I mean, I know that there have been ups and downs with all of pageantry for you, but I
And
know
for a
that,
lot of people, with the pandemic. Yeah.
but I mean, not even just that. Like because you and I have talked about it personally, just that not every system is going to be the right fit for you. Not every
Right.
system, not every crown, not every director is going to sit with you in the right way. And one of the things I think that's really hard is to be able to find the ones that fit you and your personality and sit with you in the right way so that um when you retire and I
In air quotes, right?
for those of us that have been in pageantry for a while, we could say when we retire, uh, that it's hard to find what resonates with you and to have
Mhm.
that year where you get to the end of the year and you're like, I don't want to give this crown away. Like someone else can compete for it, but it's going to be mine. And I believe, and I could be wrong, but tell me about your experience with Miss Black International Ambassador and how you have felt about this reign and what
Yeah,
has
actually,
made it different for you.
for sure. And I also wanted to kind of follow up into what you were saying earlier about, just picking the right system for you. A lot of times with a lot of the queens that I coach, I have a consulting company, Cierra Jackson Consulting. And I coach them and I tell them, a part of your journey is actually selecting the right pageant for you. So a lot of times, a lot of women want to do pageants, but they don't necessarily do their homework or their research to figure out which one fits best with their talents, with their skills, their background, like you said, their personality, where they're from, all these things that they value, their values. A lot of times people don't look into that and they just sign up for the first pageant that they can find, right? And then sometimes they will feel discouraged if they're not able to be successful. But in reality, they have to really figure out what they're doing and why they're wanting to sign up for a particular pageant. So I always encourage people to, number one, do your homework. Because either you can find a pageant that works and fits itself and is really catering to you, or you're going to have to cater to the pageant, but you just got to figure out which one you want to do. And I think that for me, I've been a chameleon in a bunch of different pageant spaces. I kind of know how to be able to navigate in those realms. But for Miss Black International Ambassador, it's probably one of the best pageants I could have done at this particular point in my life. It reminds me a lot of Spelman, in the sense that it is a place created for women of African descent, just like Spelman is a historically Black college, and it's only for women. So it's really a space where you can celebrate yourself and just be proud of who you are. There are a lot of cultural pageants that exist for women of African descent, women of Latina descent, women of Asian descent, literally from all over the world. So I encourage so many different people to consider cultural pageants because they're really a way that you can really just, own your authenticity, own your heritage, and celebrate your heritage.
Yeah. I actually I mean, the woman that I crowned as Ms. Achievement World,
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the discussions that she and I had because she said, and Esther, I love you. Uh, she said that this was the first title that was not a specifically cultural or based on age or based on um other demographics, and it was really exciting to her because she had been in that place where there was specific cultural backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds that were the systems that she competed in previously, and and I think that especially because there is a pageant for everybody. I believe honestly that there's so many systems out there that finding the one that like you said breathes your values, breathes what you are trying to say, uh, and 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 gives you a microphone to be able to to glow up. I mean, to be the
Mhm.
highlights of what are the things that you personally believe in. I think that that's so important.
Yeah.
And there are people, like, I know that there are people now saying, well, why do we have to have these cultural diversity programs? And I'm like, because representation matters. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Not, I mean, and in my lifetime, there was a point in my lifetime when I celebrated seeing a brunette win Miss USA or Miss America
Mhm.
there, because when I was younger, it was blondes and Barbie like
Right,
almost,
right.
so then the first brunette win, I was like, oh my gosh. And then, then seeing the first Latina, Laura Martinez Herring, winning Miss USA, that was huge because I was like, wait, she totally is not normal. I mean, and Vanessa Williams celebrating her as the first Black Miss America, and being able to see portions of what our lives in our country are. Brooke,
Yeah.
I remember Brooke's last name, winning, being Asian American. Um, and
And Brooke Lee and yeah.
Brooke Lee.
Mhm.
I know her last name. I
Yeah,
can't
no, no,
remember.
I got it. I remember that. Yeah, I think that there's so many different spaces where we see that. But I also think that the reason why is one part of it is yes, representation is important, but also that racism and colorism exists. Even texturism exists. And, racism, of course, is treating people differently based on their race or their cultural ethnicity. Colorism is treating people differently based on what their shade is and the spectrum of colors that people have. And texturism is treating people differently based on the texture of their hair, and how curly or coily it may be in relation to someone else, right? So we see a lot of different spaces of that, but I know for sure that I dealt with racism, colorism, and texturism in my journey. And though there are so many incredible women like you mentioned, Miss America, to my knowledge, has still not had a Latina Miss America or a Miss America with a degree from a historically Black college or university. And there are other aspects as well for even Miss USA. Miss USA, you'll see a lot of women who are of color, but I do believe that there is some colorism and texturism that also exists, because as a dark-skinned woman with naturally curly hair who is American born, I notice that a lot of times we may have a woman who may be dark-skinned, but she may have to straighten her hair to win. Or you may have a woman who is a Black woman and she has curly hair, but she's a fair complexion. And generally the only time that you'll see a dark-skinned woman with naturally curly hair is if she is not American born, i.e. Zoe, who's from South Africa, which
Right.
a lot of times we've heard gives a little bit of a space of someone being exotic or, from a different place. But I think that there are a lot of women who are dark skinned with HBCU degrees, who have naturally curly hair, who are not, foreign born, but American born, who want to be able to represent. And I think that that's something that we have to make space for. And I also think that that exists for Indian women, as well as Latina women on the Miss USA side and in other spaces too. So sometimes you'll see diversity at Universe, but you won't see it in spaces that are really American focused.
Well, I did it again. Oh my goodness. Okay. So, it's funny when you're speaking about that, and I remember at Miss Universe 2019 when Zoe won. I remember doing backstage interviews because they do like everybody, so you get an opportunity to interview um, as many people as you can. I think we got, of the 92 women, we got 65 of them, so it was like an astronomical
Oh,
amount.
wow.
Yeah, it was like, I was like, okay, just keep bringing them to me, and I was sure, I'll just keep going. But Miss Sierra Leone walked up to me and she goes, I just need you to know that I am the darkest skinned woman here. I know I'm not going to win. And I went, wait, what?
Wow.
And and I kind of took me back for a second, because I was like, but you're gorgeous and you're wonderful
Mhm.
and you're talented. So why would that? It didn't even occur to me that colorism was that significant, and it really it hurt me, because I find that since I'm not great with social cues always, I don't pick up on things like that. And I was like,
Mhm.
I turned to my friend, my staff there with me, and I was like, wait, was that awkward? And my mailing is Miss Achievement Cuba right now. She looked at me. She goes, there isn't always representation. She says, as a she's an Afro. Cuban, so she's got darker skin as well as a Cuban American, and she says, "I get dismissed all the time," and I was like, "Wow, I've spent a whole lot of time not understanding this culture,"
Mhm.
and that really upset me because I felt like I needed to be better educated. And I don't know, I mean, I know you talk politics all the time. This is clearly a little bit more political than maybe we need to be, but do you mind helping to educate other people about colorism and how it has affected you in pageantry? And if you don't,
Yeah.
that's okay. We'll go on to talking about all of the areas of competition, and that's fine too.
No, you're totally fine. I mean, I think that to your point, it can be frustrating because there is a space of token trauma, right? And it happens in two ways. One phase of token trauma is that if someone is crowned right before you who looks similar to you or who is just of color, it make you feel like you won't be able to be successful because they've already picked their token person of color for that year. And a lot of times you won't see that another person crowned, until much later. So with USA, I think that they've been trying to do a good job at dismantling that token trauma that maybe people of color have seen over time. But I still think that there are some colorism issues and texturism issues that exist that really need to be changed and really need to help women be able to see themselves in all beauties celebrated in different ways. And I also feel like with you talking about Miss Sierra Leone in the year that you were able to interview her and her feeling the way that she did, it's sometimes unfortunate to hear queens kind of count themselves out early because you really don't know. And even in her year, there was a woman of color who was able to win with natural hair. But I also think that it's a little bit more difficult too, because you can't 100% blame her because she's seen that
Right.
concept, that beauty standard kind of repeating itself over time. So I definitely wish the best for her, but I also appreciate opportunities like Miss Black International Ambassador that have been able to not just make the stage wider and the platform bigger for women of color who are in America, but women who are all over the world. This is the first year that Miss Black International Ambassador has had an international competition, and I have a lot of pride and honor in being able to be the first international queen to compete and win in an international country, the Nassau, Bahamas. And it's been just a phenomenal experience because now, as a woman of color, I can see what it feels like to be an international queen and meet the First Lady of the Bahamas and travel all over the world and just have these incredible experiences. So I think that those experiences that we see are difficult, to kind of somewhat stomach, but they're a reality. And one of the solutions that I feel that has helped that is pageants like Miss Black International Ambassador, but also speaking up against the things that you see on platforms like these and others to let people know that, hey, colorism and texturism and racism exist in pageantry.
Yeah. Well, and it exists everywhere. I mean, that is the reality, and uh,
Yes, yes. I love that you said that too, because I always tell people pageantry is not a bubble.
no,
If it exists in
it's
the
real
world,
life. Yeah.
yes. If it exists in the world, what makes us think that pageantry is going to be the exception? If anything, it's going to also exist there too. And I also think that there are some spaces of, I guess you kind of have to learn and grow. And you can probably even see some parts of sexism. It's kind of harder because there's generally a lot of women. So it's kind of hard to spot and there's not many occurrences of it. But even that exists, because if it exists in the world, then of course it'll probably exist in pageantry. But hopefully we try and do a better job at making it a better place for women to actually be encouraged and developed and being able to blossom. And I think that's the part of pageantry that we oftentimes miss because we're so focused on competing that we don't always think about uplifting and encouraging.
Right. Well, and then, like, even for myself, which people are like, "Well, you're white." I'm like, "Yes, but I'm a plus size woman." So
Hmm.
winning my first pageant as a plus size woman in a non-plus pageant was significant.
Hmm.
But it was even harder being out in the community and doing appearances because people are like, "Oh, sweetheart, that's so awesome. Where did you buy that?"
And you're like, no, I won that.
I won that. I mean, and I still and so now I'm dealing with ageism too because at 56, I don't fit into that mold that
Hmm.
people,
Hmm.
see, and it's not just pageant wise. Like in all things that I do, we just talked about this. Like the idea that I could be on the red carpet doing interviews just seems, even though it's very comfortable and I feel safe and I've done it for pageants, the idea of doing it, you know, in another realm just seems kind of crazy to me because who's going to hire a 56-year-old? Like it just, I mean,
And that's crazy to think, but
I
sometimes
mean, we
that's
just had
true.
this discussion, but
Yeah.
it's true. I am a plus size woman who is, not in her 20s, so like, or 30s. How am I going to be able to break into broadcasting, or how am I going to break into something like that and make that change? So, um,
Yes.
maybe there's a bigger conversation that we need to have about that as well, because and I know that that's something that happens within the industry. And then I think that that was one of the challenges I think that Chesley was facing,
Hmm.
was that idea that she turned 30 and now it was downhill from there. Like, where do you go from 30?
Right.
Which,
Right.
which is really, really sad when you think about it, because at this point, 30 is maybe a third of your life.
Right.
Oh,
Exactly.
okay, it's over now, really? I mean, and I'm not making light of that. I mean, I know that that clearly is the part of a bigger picture that has happened here in the United States. I don't know how much it happens globally, because I know that there's a different feeling for people
Mhm.
in other countries about age and respect and diversity. So anyways, okay, all right.
No, I mean that's a great point. Chesley did experience that, and it was something that was difficult for people to be able to actually acknowledge. She was the oldest and longest reigning Miss USA. I think people should definitely focus on the longest reigning just as much as they focus on
Right.
the oldest, because that means that she had to carry that weight of being Miss USA for longer than any person ever has carried the weight of Miss USA. So I think that that's something that we should consider. In the grand scheme of everything, but then also the fact of what she was talking about. There is a pressure of people. Once you get older, there is ageism, like it exists in the world, it exists in pageantry. And how old can beauty be and to be considered beautiful? And what does it look like? And does it have a certain number on the scale? Does it have a particular hue to their skin or a texture to their hair? These are the things that people oftentimes question. And in pageantry, the goal, I believe, is to change the standard and set the standard for what you believe your beauty is. No one can tell you, and especially if you're waiting for the world to tell you to be beautiful, you will forever be waiting, because someone will always say, okay, well, she's all right, but she's not my cup of tea, right? So you have to say it for yourself that you are beautiful. You have to own your own beauty on your own. And you have to be in a space where, especially on these stages, we're hoping that people, a lot of times we're hoping that people will accept us. It's a different type of confidence when you accept yourself and you say, I don't care what you feel about me or how you feel my beauty is, and walk with that type of, level of pride. And it reminds me of a quote that I read, I think about Lance Armstrong, who's an Olympian. And I think he said that I was an Olympian before I ever won an Olympic medal. And that's the truth about everything in life. You have to be a queen. You have to see yourself as beautiful before anyone ever deems you as a queen, before anyone ever deems you as being beautiful. So that's what I truly believe. I think everyone should have that within their life and in their heart.
Yeah, I say it often that the jewelry on your head is not what makes you a queen, it's what's in your heart. You
Yeah.
you know it, you walk it, you live it, and and people are like, "What?" And I'm like, it's a piece of jewelry. It's not what makes you who you are."
Right.
And I think that sometimes we get caught up in what that piece of jewelry represents, when
Mm-hmm.
the bigger picture is that this is an opportunity to share your story, your wisdom, your purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and touch other people's lives. And I say it all the time that, we are changing lives using a crown and a sash, but we really are. Like,
Yeah.
and whether it's locally, if it's nationally, if it's internationally, whatever it is, that is your world for that moment and that breath.
Mm-hmm.
So can you, and what are you doing with it? I mean, that really is what pageantry now is about. Is, again, I said at the beginning of the story, of the show, 364 days happen between the time that you're crowned and the time you give up your crown. But we never see that. We never,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, or I mean, consistently see it. So yes, now we have Instagram and TikTok, and you can see snippets of life. But are they real life?
Yeah.
Or are you in the, getting your hands dirty? Are you out really, making a difference? Or is it, you showing off whatever it is that you're doing at that particular moment.
Right.
Uh, and that to me, I think that leads into that authenticity part of it. Like, how can we make sure that our women going forward, the young
Hmm.
women that are doing us in social media and seeing these opportunities and seeing diversity and seeing representation now, but
Right.
how do we make it real too? Because social media isn't real. You know, perfect doesn't exist. You can feel and exude your beauty, but do you have to exude your beauty as, perfect hair and makeup, or can you exude your beauty just by being who you are? And that is where I find that I'm shifting to now, is like,
Yeah.
what is authenticity?
Right. And there's nothing wrong with if you like to get your hair done or your makeup done, but I think it's also a part of, just being real with yourself. And if you feel like every time you get up and go to an appearance, you have to silence some part of yourself or box yourself in, you have to find a way to allow that to shine through everything that you're doing. Because it's not really a sustainable model to be able to do pageantry but feel like you're boxing yourself in every time you walk out the door, or have a job and feel like you're boxing yourself in every time you go to work, or have a school that you're attending and feel like you're boxing yourself in every time you walk out your dorm to class. Like, none of those spaces celebrate you. None of those spaces honor who you are and the essence of who you are. So you have to find spaces in your life that honor you and really affirm who you are, because I think that this world is already tough enough as it is. You don't want to maintain being in tough spaces when you don't have to, of just continuously fighting to make a space for yourself. Everyone needs community. So why not go to the spaces that genuinely and naturally accept you for who you are?
Agree. And that takes us back to how you got into this space as Ms. Black International Ambassador, and
Hmm.
how this sits with you. Like, I know this sits with you. This feels good for you. So how has it changed pageantry for you, having this title and being this title holder? Like, how has this space made you glow up?
Yeah, well, the first time in 12 years, I have had a Black woman as my director, which has, and not just one, but two, because I had our founder, Patrice Harrison, and then Cierra Thompson, who is now the new director. And both of those women really were able to instill in me just some great spaces of mentorship and development. And that's really honestly what I feel like I wanted in pageantry. A lot of times, I feel like, we're looking into these industries and we see something about pageants that we like. A lot of times people are like, oh, I want to do a pageant, but why do you want to do a pageant? And for me, I feel like it gave me a space to be able to connect with the mayor of my city, and the mayor be able to talk to an 18-year-old at the time, in a very serious way, and not think that, it was juvenile to connect with me about anything that was going on in our community. And for me to be able to sit right next to the mayor at a gala or whatever, the event may be. But then also the other part of that was being able to have the leadership and mentorship from a woman who was in the community who had already been doing a great job at just developing herself and being a leader. And a lot of times throughout pageantry, I was searching for that, but didn't always find it. And it wasn't really until I got to Miss Black International Ambassador where I found it in this industry. And it's been a game changer for me, for sure, because you get to be mentored by a woman who looks like you. And I remember when I was in the Miss America system and even USA, I would literally go and do pageants when I heard out that they had a Black director, because what I noticed was a lot of times, just because we have a diverse candidate does not mean that the organizations and the people who surround them understand what it means to help a diverse candidate. So you'll see a woman of color, whether she's Latina, Asian, Indian, African American, whatever, she's in that role, but the people around her may not be as competent to be able to do her makeup for her skin tone, do her hair for her hair texture, be able to light her in photography the way that she needs to be lit, being able to guide her, through her community and different engagements and encounters that she may deal with, being at appearances where maybe there has never been a person of color in her role at that appearance. And what do those microaggressions look like? What do those experiences look like? And a lot of times we have directors who go to their trainings to be a director, if there is even a training, because sometimes there isn't a training. But if there is a training, that they go to those trainings, but they don't always have, trainings on diversity and inclusion and what that means and how you're making space for those people in those roles.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that first, I said to you before we went live, I was like, your makeup looks amazing.
Thank
Like, I mean, just, eh, and those are things that, like, I'm that weird person that walks up to people that I don't know and go, you're beautiful. I just want you to know that. And they go, what? What? No, and
That's too funny.
why do you do that to people? And I'm like, because people need to hear that, you know,
Hmm.
but and your beauty far exudes just this, which I think is really important. And I love the way your hair looks, by the way. Totally
Thank
awesome.
you.
And we've talked about also too, like how how pageantry has changed with respect to you being you being brave enough to be like, nope, I'm going to be on stage with my natural hair and break through and make that change. And I think it was more than just grace that happened, that it happened at a time when many women, even though they had expressed it previous to that, really had not felt like it was a safe space to do it. And
Hmm.
you were one of those pioneers to go, you know what? I'm good. So I think that that's, I mean, honestly, you know what I'm saying? And we have talked about this personally as
Yes.
well.
No,
So
yes, I definitely do.
I think it's important that, you know, being able to love who you are and every part about you is really a bigger part of this story about pageantry. And being able to be that role model for that girl out there that is going, you know what? I don't see anybody in this space, but I want to try it. So and making
Hmm.
sure that, like you said, that there are directors out there that can help lead you through that process, which, let's face it, pageantry is not easy. It's being a director is the hardest job on the planet. Like, it is hard in pageantry. It is the hardest job in pageantry. Being a title holder is very, very
Yeah,
difficult, but being that person that has to direct and mold
and lead.
and lead and steer someone through the journey is super, super hard. At the same time, doing social media and getting sponsors and making sure they get a great venue and judges and all of the other pieces that title holders don't see. You don't always see it or respect it because you're the person that's competing. So, like, this is my job. Yeah, it is your job, but also give grace
Right.
to the people that are making your job possible. So
Yes, for sure. No, being a director is definitely difficult, but it's definitely necessary, because when you don't have one, you can also feel the difference in that too. But you also a positive director who's a good director who's going to listen and be supportive. I mean, a lot of times you don't see that, but I'm grateful for my director. She listens to all of our ideas and openly welcomes them, and I think that's something that sometimes you'll see in the realm of directing. People would just be like, "Oh, I've done this for however many years. I don't really need your help," or "Oh, I got it. Thank you for the tip, though, but we got it." They really don't listen to your ideas, even if they don't take them. They just don't really give them much consideration. And I think that also speaks to how you enjoy your reign, because you want to be valued. And I think that when your ideas are also not valued, that can be frustrating. Or if you share ideas, this is another microaggression that a lot of people of color may face. They may share them and they may not be heard. And then someone who is not a person of color shares the same idea and then someone hears it. Those are things that can be very difficult. But I think you just have to find your swing, and swing of things, and people in your community who are going to be able to support you and be willing to make your ideas happen, whether someone sees them or not, and kind of by any means necessary. And don't be afraid to pivot. So I think that's so important, and I think that's also one of the reasons why I decided to compete with my naturally curly hair. And I thank you so much for taking the time out to highlight that, because it's important for people to be able to see themselves in that way. And Spelman was an integral part of me being able to be on those stages and just be myself and with my naturally curly hair. Because at that time, I was going to a historically Black college and university, a space where African Americans are able to go to learn about their heritage. When a lot of times our grade schools don't know how to talk about it, or our teachers are uncomfortable to share those experiences with us about what happened in our history, because it's so grim and it's not beautiful. So, and it still affects us to this very day with redlining, where certain communities are restricted for people who are of African American descent or other descents from different cultures, because someone does not want their neighborhoods to have people of color in them, so there's a lot of different things, loans that get denied, just bids on homes and things that just don't go anywhere.
Women in general deal with that. It's not, I mean, clearly it's worse. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's worse for women of color. But women in general, that's the whole thing that Zoe stood up on and said, we need to take up space. We are we are
Hmm.
the greater percentage of the population on this planet. Why do we not have that opportunity?
Yeah.
And then it is countered even more so by being a woman of color. So
Yes, for sure, for sure.
but like,
What'd you say?
hello. So, all right. So
I
I
was gonna
and
say as well, there's a lot of different things that I experienced in pageantry, and that I was able to really just be able to find a way to speak and be myself. And kind of like I was saying earlier, I know you asked me that question. I just wanted to follow up on it. But there was a space where I didn't really know, how it was going to be, being a woman who decided that she was going to wear her naturally curly hair on stage, and what that was like, and the support that I needed from that. And like I said, Spelman was that support for me. So I literally had to find, community, number one, my tribe, to be able to help support me in that endeavor, because it is hard to be able to, just be yourself sometimes when the world tells you that who you are authentically is not enough, right? You have to find that to be enough for you, and that's where you find your fulfillment. So, and I also say that's important because so many people want to be successful, but you have to define what success is for you. What is enough? What is good enough for you? And for me, I never wanted to be a straight haired Miss America. I always wanted to be a naturally curly haired Miss America, because I was wearing my hair naturally curly every single day of my life. So I made sure that I was able to just stay that path by, one, finding my tribe, two, doing something that I call like corrective media, where I literally just went on Instagram and followed as many women with naturally curly hair that I could find. And it helped me see myself with the naturally, curly hair in different spaces. And I didn't really always know how to style it, but it showed me styles. It showed me, women doing it in different ways and being confident about how they were doing it. It just showed me just so many different perspectives. And it really helped me, find a way to be my authentic self and find that community, and let me know that it was possible. So by the time I made it to Miss America, it really was about just being able to do it. And I know that sometimes with being a woman who's natural and a person of color, that if there has never been a person to stand on that stage with naturally curly afro, and I'm going to be the first, that I may not get far, right? But the goal for me was, if I can just have, though of course I want to win, right? And I'm going to prepare myself to win, but ultimately, if I can just have a picture of me go across my community of just me standing on that stage with my afro, then that may be enough to inspire so many different people to just be authentic to themselves and to do it. And it was a lot of pressure, because I remember coaches telling me, listen, if you're going to be the first, you got to do it right. You can't mess it up, because if you mess it up, then people may feel like there won't be space. They'll only see that mess up, and they may not be as open to seeing other people do it, because they won't know how to do it. And then they also won't see it done well. So you have to do this right, So I really just took out a bunch of time. And from that moment forward, when I knew I wanted to do it, I never straightened my hair. And I think that was in 2013, and I haven't straightened my hair since. So almost 10 years since then. But it literally was something that I had to do. One, because I knew that there'd be people who would want to see me with straight hair and not like my curly hair, and may take a photo of me with straight hair and choose that to be the promotions for the pageant versus my curly hair. And two, because I knew that I needed to learn how to do my hair in the best way possible. So I had to maximize every opportunity from the time I made that decision to the time I got on that stage. So when I won swimsuit, that literally was the picture that went all over the world. Literally was on my grandmother's hometown's front page of her newspaper. And I had never even posted a picture of myself in swimsuit anywhere, even on social media, just because of, you know, I guess, like, the sexism that we see in politics, where, men can go to the beach with their shirts off or whatever. No one says that they're unfit to be a leader. But as soon as a woman does it, it's, oh, she can't be a politician. She can't be a leader. Who is she? She can't lead our community. So those are things that used to scare me. But then after, I won swimsuit at Miss America, and my picture was literally global, like in French magazines, in Asian magazines, just all over the world. It really made me realize, one, that I don't have to be afraid of empowering others, and I can do it wearing a swimsuit, and I can do it with natural hair, So I think there's so many ways where you have to step outside your box, challenge the status quo. And as long as you have great intention and you're doing the right thing, and you can see the positive impact, then that that's something, that a path that you can stay on.
So I'm going to say something to that, which I know sounds really kind of, it's 2 points. First of all, growing up, I grew up outside of Detroit, so in Motown, when
Mm-hmm.
Motown was big. So for me, Afro hair, the natural hair, was like the biggest, baddest, most wonderful, magical thing. Like, I can't imagine seeing Diana Ross and not seeing that amazing hair.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the Jacksons too. Like, I mean, the whole thing, like every part about it was beautiful and magical and fantastic. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
know when it became the beauty standard to not have natural hair, because I'm like, why? So
Mm-hmm.
that to me has always been something that made me go, I don't think I like this.
Yeah.
Because why should we have to change the way that we look to fit into somebody else's idea of what beauty is, which we talked about at the beginning of the show as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when who you are beautifully, naturally, is who you should be. Um, and then, eh, not to be narcissistic, but to bring it back to something that I experienced. So when I started in pageantry, big hair, the higher the hair, the closer you are to God, was the
Yeah.
thing, because I was in 80s. I was competing in the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
and my hair is straight. My hair is stick straight. There's nothing you can do to change it. This is natural. So my mom was a stylist. So my entire life she told me about how horrible my hair was.
Mm-hmm.
I had my first perm when I was 3 to try to get. I spent a good portion of my life looking like a poodle for a couple of weeks, and then it would just fall out. Um, because my mom felt that I didn't fit into the beauty standard that she expected. Um, and so when I got into pageantry, that was the same expectation. So I would spend, nights sleeping in curlers with the hope that my hair would last long enough for me to make my 30 seconds across stage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I I hated it. I hated my hair. I hated the way I looked, the way I felt about it, because that was what the information was that I had coming into me. And I guess by some, crazy thing, like, now straight hair is cool, and so I am now at 56, 40 years later from the day that I set foot on stage for the first time, going, I got magic hair. It's cool. Because this I don't have to do anything for.
Mm-hmm.
And my friends with curly hair are like, how do you do that? Do you step out of the shower and brush your hair and it's straight? And I'm like, how do you get yours to do that? Because it's really cool and I can't. Like, so I think that there is this myopic, really, view of what we each consider to be beauty, and how can we best represent ourselves and our natural beauty and feel safe and okay to be able to do that. And I really applaud your courage for not being afraid or ashamed to go, you know what? This is who I am.
Mhm.
When you did it, when you were 20, 20,
I was
18,
23. And I started when I want to say maybe 21 is when
right?
I first started. And I didn't win the pageant when I first, competed with naturally curly hair. But I think it's important that we keep pushing forward. And I also would say that even I did some, cultural pageants at historically Black colleges. And I noticed that, even women who were competing in a space where the audience was African American, the judges were African American, the organization was African American, and all the contestants were. Even in those spaces, we would not always wear our hair natural. And that was something that I wanted to change to encourage people to set the standard of beauty for themselves. So I really enjoyed that, being able to do it and take it to the Miss America stage and also to the Miss USA stage and as Miss Black International Ambassador. Every space is important to be able to be natural.
Right.
Sometimes just because you're in a cultural pageant doesn't mean that people are wearing their hair naturally curly, and that's okay. But I also want to encourage people to let them know that you can do it there too. And I think it's important that people see that. And I'm so grateful because when I first competed, after that picture went all over the world, I feel like I wasn't really sure if I had made an impact. Like I saw the articles, right? But the true impact is if people actually gravitate to it, pick it up, and do it themselves, right? If you're actually able to influence people to step into their own authenticity. In the first year afterwards, there were no women of color who had naturally curly hair on the Miss America stage. And I honestly was a little bit concerned. I was like, dang God, did it actually make a difference? And I know like I saw the article go out, so I know it made a difference to my community, but for this industry that I'm in, hasn't made a difference yet. And one of the things that I learned is that sometimes that first year after you're competing, there are already some people who are already like in the channels.
Right.
So those people are already there and they're not impacted by that previous year as much. But the next year, that's when I really saw it. 8 women of color were able to come on that stage after I think only that year there were 3 the year prior.
Right.
And half of those women had naturally curly hair. So that was really inspiring. And then after that, you saw women. Well, actually, before that, you saw like women like Deshauna Barber who
I
took
was
her
just
hair out
gonna
at the
say,
very. Yes, you saw her take her hair out and wear naturally curly at the very end of her reign. And then you also saw people like Kyra McCullough, who had generally always competed with straight hair, compete with natural hair for the first time at Miss USA. You see people like Chesley, who was able to compete with her natural hair at Miss USA. And you started to begin to see a trend of women at Miss America and Miss USA,
yeah.
and probably even Miss Universe. You saw people like Miss Jamaica wearing her naturally curly hair and its natural curl pattern, which is also a big thing too. So there's so many different spaces where you'll be able to see that. And I'm just so grateful that I was able to be a trailblazer and pioneer in that space. Sometimes in spaces where you do feel like, you may not be seen or heard, or your message that you're trying to, get out into the community is received, but it has been received. And I'm so grateful that we have been able to see it in so many different ways and see queens who are not afraid of, wearing their natural hair. And I am truly just looking forward to a day where, you don't have to wait for every woman from every hue and every texture and, every shade that they come in, that we come in, that they can wear their hair and that we can still be crowned with our hair curly at the time of the coronation. Because a lot of times you'll see queens wear their hair straight for coronation and then, wear their hair natural once they've gotten the crown. But I'm really looking forward to the day from local, state, to national and international, where the queen can be crowned with her naturally curly hair from any different hue and still be able to be successful in that industry and in that realm that she's choosing to compete.
You're so awesome. I love you.
Thank you. I love you too.
We have the best conversations. Have you ever noticed that? Like we'll get into something and it'll be like, we do like, and I love that. I love that I mean, I hope we talked about this before on the phone. Like I don't uh, there are people that I consider my friends, and I'm like, well, I hope they're my friends, but maybe they aren't my friends. But I know that you and I've had great conversations that have lasted like 2, 3 hours, and we're just like talking about life, and I love that, and I love your authenticity. I love your courage. I love the
Thank
fact that
you.
you are are so well spoken and so comfortable in this realm, and I
Thank
and
you.
and I and I feel that you're an asset to what pageantry is, and we need more people that are like that, because there are the people that are not authentic and they're not true, and they give pageantry that feel that makes people go, oh, you do pageants, and you're not that person, so we need
Yes.
more of that. we need
No.
we need
I appreciate
You
that. No,
know
I was
what
just talking.
we're talking about, right?
Yes, I know what you're talking about. I was just talking to one of my friends the other day, and I noticed how, like, a lot of times, I don't want to just say it's exclusive to pageantry. It exists in pageantry and it exists in the real world too. But a lot of times, people who are very sought after can sometimes have a mean girl persona, and it can sometimes come off like, "Oh, you can't sit with us." But I also don't think that every pageant girl is that way. But I have seen that, and I try to be the difference. And if you look at my social media, I try to be very approachable, which is the exact opposite of, you can't sit with us at the table, And I think it's important because people need to see it. It may not be popular, right? Sometimes that persona helps people gain followers and influence and, makes them feel exclusive. And that's great for if that's what you want to do. But I also think that there also is a beauty in being able to be connected to your community, being approachable, down to earth. Those are things that I feel like are very important too. And if you are going to be that person who does the opposite, just know that, there is a space where you can still have a space of a heart in that moment. If that's what you have to do for your industry, to be able to be successful, maybe consider it, but then also consider, what it looks like you still being able to be in your community and finding ways to do that. And know that that's not what the world is always like, and that's not what pageantry is always like. There's so many incredible women in pageantry and in the world who are different from that. So I definitely encourage people to see that. And I encourage people just to be able to just to stand in their truth, to be real with who they are, to not be afraid to be themselves, to be courageous enough to do something different that no one has ever done. Because in the moment, people are going to say you're crazy. They told me I was crazy. They told me I'd never make it to the Miss America stage. Definitely not Miss USA. Definitely not with natural hair, let alone with no weave. Like those are other things that they oftentimes said. But you can be the example of that and let people know that it's just not true. It just simply isn't true. And it's so long as you keep pushing forward, you can make anything you want to happen. But you have to be relentless enough to know that you can't give up, and it's almost an obsession, if you will, to be able to master something, to be great at it, and to be able to actually birth your gifts into your community.
Right. Well, one of the things with Ms. Achievement World and Dr. World, our director Diana Lawrence
Mm-hmm.
tells the judges, I want my title holder to be somebody you want to sit down and have lunch with or have coffee with. I want
Mm-hmm.
my title holder to be somebody that is accessible, that is approachable. And that, I think, is what is wonderful, because I want. So when I meet a Miss Universe, I want the Miss Universe to be somebody that makes me feel like I'm special. Like, not
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not talking about like, but that at that particular moment they are authentic and kind and sweet and approachable, and it isn't something that they're putting on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that always going to happen? No. Have
Right.
have I met many Miss Universes and Miss USAs? Yes. And many title holders. Let's face it. Like, through it, I've done thousands of interviews, so not every woman is going to be that person.
Right.
Uh, but I would love to see more of that. I think that it is important that the person that I'm talking to is somebody that can say, "Hey, you know what? I really love what you're saying. can we go grab a cup of coffee and talk about this more outside of this realm, you know?
Right.
So, and
Yeah.
I think that in what you are doing now moving forward with coaching, and I know you've done coaching before, I've done coaching before too, and
Mhm.
I always say that. I want someone that's going to make me feel like I want to spend more time with them.
Mhm.
And you would hope that that would be the model that all coaches are putting forward, but I don't think that it is.
Mhm. And I
So,
mean, you mean, and when you say that, the model of just being yourself?
yeah, like, I mean, and we talk about, so again, I'll say authenticity,
Mhm.
because we hear that a lot right now in the pageant world, but is it really truly being authentic, or is it a trained authenticity?
Hmm. Yeah, I think that some of it can feel trained, but I think that there's also a space where you can really get in deep with who you are, and it's a personal journey. So
Right.
sometimes it can't always be, it can be guided, but I can't, like, as a coach, I can't give it to you. I can guide you to it, right? And I think it's just about really doing the homework to dig deep and figure out what your true desires are. What do you want from your experiences? What makes you unique? Why are you unique? What do you love about yourself? What exists in you that doesn't exist in anyone else? You know, like really cultivating and finding out the things that make you unique, and then also the things that make you authentic, and then really showing those things. And that, I think, is what will get everyone closer to authenticity. But you're going to have to be real with yourself, and it's not going to always be comfortable, but it's going to be something that gets you closer to knowing who you are. And a lot of times you don't find that in pageantry. You have to step outside of pageantry, do a program in your community, go to a school like Spelman,
Right.
or any school that's willing to develop you in that way. Sometimes there are cotillion classes or other like women-led classes that really develop and pull out all of these different gems that you hold that you don't know about, or maybe
Right.
you never discovered, that really bring those things out and help you see yourself for who you really are. So I think that's what it takes. But you have to be real enough to want to go against the status quo to be authentic, in certain ways. A lot of times in pageantry, it's crazy because to win, you have to stand out, right? And we know that.
Right.
But
How can you look like somebody else or act like somebody else if you're standing, I mean,
right.
how?
Right. Why are you trying to look or talk or speak like someone else 100% if in order to stand out, you have to be different? So I
Right.
think that we have to really look into that and say, okay, well, if I'm going to be different, then I have to figure out what makes me different and what I like about me that makes me different. And how can I amplify that and share that and brand myself in a way that gets my message out quickly? I think the parts of pageantry that may feel inauthentic or teach authenticity, I know there's some parts that are not as positive, but then there are parts that are positive, like being able to, speak to a PR representative or someone who helps you with branding to get your story out quicker, because you don't always have the luxury of having, a lot of time in interviews like we get to have to talk
Right.
about who you are. So you may have 2 minutes. And how can you let them know how you're different in 2 minutes? So that's where interview coaching comes in. That's where branding and PR comes in. So those are the positive ways. I think the negative ways are when people, have found their story. Maybe they have worked with a PR person, but they haven't really, the intent behind it comes a little bit warped. And it's not truly to, like, maybe you're sharing your story to connect with the community, but if you meet someone in the community and they want to connect with you, you may not always be as open. So that's where you start to see where maybe it's not as authentic as maybe it could be. And those are the spaces where we really have to take a step back, give ourselves self care and self love, and then re enter those situations when we're able to share, those stories with others and potentially resources and encouragement if we meet someone along our journey who's going through the same thing.
Amen. I, oh, I love, I do love you. I think that these are conversations that we need to have on a bigger scale. And I wish that, I could get more people to hear, because your journey is, I mean, in the scope of pageantry, you have been on some of the biggest stages that women that covet all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you've been an international, well, you are an international title holder. So like,
Yeah.
I think that it is important that that you have more space to be able to be heard, seen, understood, and to be able to give value to. Clearly, there are parts of all of this that um, resonate longer than your lifetime. So how can we move that forward and like change it for the next generations and be able to be more than just two people having this conversation, like how to make this global. So I think that's a bigger piece of all of this too.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. I love that you asked that question. I really think that it comes from being able to support organizations like this Black International Ambassador, and others, and people who have something to say but don't always get the microphone or platform to say something, amplifying their stories. NBIA was very important to me because, like I said, it was the first time in 12 years that I ever had a Black woman as a director, and I was blessed to have two, and it was also international. So that's something that I really wanted. One of the reasons why I decided to compete, but it also exposed me to women from all over the world. I didn't realize that, maybe I thought that there would be, but I didn't know that maybe one day I would get the chance to meet a woman from a Black woman from Australia, and a Black woman from the United Kingdom, and from Cameroon, and from, Alaska, and from every place in the world you can probably think about, and more, but this Black International Ambassador gave me that international pageant experience with the mentorship and the guidance of having a Black woman at the helm, that really changed the trajectory for me and what I'll even do in the future, but what I'll continue to give back to this industry. So that was so important for me. And then in addition to that, more reasons that I feel like I wanted to be in this space, but also reasons that help us amplify is, Ms. Black International Ambassador has international connections and partnerships with organizations from that really support young women being able to be entrepreneurs and leaders, and learning how to be cosmetologists and makeup artists, and just really, guiding young women in those spaces. And I'm so grateful to have this title because now I can connect with those women and actually do humanitarian global work, in this role. And I really feel like that's what pageantry is all about. You can support Ms. Black International Ambassador by supporting our Foundational 50 that's going on right now, or donating, or, attending the pageant, or sharing some of our stuff
Where's the
on social
pageant?
media. It's going to be on
Where should we?
October 16th in Atlanta.
Atlanta. Okay. Cause I was
Yes,
like,
I think it's
Bahamas again. And I was like, if it's going to the Bahamas, maybe I need to go. But Atlanta's closer.
it'll be in Atlanta. It'll be a lot closer to you, but it's definitely a space that I feel like many people have to be able to connect with, and just be able to really support. There's a lot of great things that are happening at Ms. Black International Ambassador, and I think that in part is one of the ways that we can really amplify these stories, these things that are going on. I'm grateful for my journey. It hasn't been easy by a long shot, but it's definitely been worth it because I've been able to go through these different spaces and actually know what it feels like. So I don't have any regrets in life. Understanding, should I have done this, or should I have not done this? Like, I know the answer to those questions now, and I think everyone in their life should be able to do it. And even one of the things I also encourage people is don't get so stuck on pageants that may be considered a pageant standard that you miss out on opportunities like Miss Black International Ambassador. Like, I know when I looked at my journey, if I had finished as at Miss DC USA, I probably would have not. I know I would have not been fulfilled. But I also was concerned because if someone wasn't able to have the conversation with me or be able to listen to this chat like that we're having right now, they may think that I was fulfilled finishing at USA, and I wasn't. So I wanted to be able to guide them through my pageant trajectory, to let them know that that wasn't the end for me, and that there was greater fulfillment in other spaces. And if they just saw my journey, that they would be able to see that and be inspired by that. So that's one of the reasons why I decided to compete for Miss Black International Ambassador after Miss USA. And I think it was probably the best decision I could have made. And it really exposed me to helping my community. It exposed me to people within my community who could support me. It exposed me to other young women who would be inspired by my story and be able to, see my story in a different arc, because I know that a lot of times these organizations don't always make the best space for us. And it can be difficult, being a woman of color at Miss America or Miss USA or any, other pageant. But I think it's important to go to places like Miss Black International Ambassador, because they do support you and they do encourage you, just to be successful. And I also want to say this: a lot of times we look at pageantry and we just want to go to what we consider is the pageant standard. But a lot of times, these pageants that we consider are the pageant standards, we haven't actually reevaluated them to see if they have been upholding those standards. Maybe they were the standards, in a certain time frame, in an era, but what do we feel like our personal standards are? Should the pageant
Right.
be able to award us a certain amount of money in scholarships that we are already giving in our pageant fees? I think that's a general standard that we can agree to. If you pay $1,000 at minimum, you should be able to get $1,000 back if you win the pageant.
Right.
What happens if you don't win? What do you gain? And what is the standard that you would want for a pageant that you do?
Right.
There are so many different spaces that, if that's a general easy ask, sometimes we don't see that. And I think even other spaces like, having directors who are able to be connected to you or who communicate regularly, and don't, kind of go ghost. Like, that's a standard that should be happening in the pageants that we consider our premier, right? And if the pageant isn't doing that, then we really have to reevaluate what our standards are. And as queens, we can't be in a space where we're consistently just wanting to be the title holder, that we don't really hold these spaces accountable. So we have to hold people accountable. And in holding them accountable, you actually get more for what you're putting in. Your time, energy, effort, money, resources, your talents are valuable and really help build these organizations. So what do you get in return for your talents that you invest? So I think that that's something that I encourage all my queens that I coach to think about. All of the people that I connect with, through interviews and in my community, it's something I would tell anybody that I met. Like, really advocate for yourself, advocate for the people who come after you, and advocate for the industries that you're a part of to be better than they were before you got there.
Right. Well, and that, that is one of the things that, like, I absolutely agree with. I find that, you know, I was I was shocked but not surprised to hear that you went on to compete in another system. Um, because we had had conversations. So like I knew, you know, you needed that positive experience.
Mm-hmm.
You needed to walk away from a system feeling like you had all of the things that bring that magic to you and those components that were important to you. So
Mm-hmm.
and I agree like wholeheartedly that that's you- I know now that I finally got into that place where I got what I've been working for 40
Mm-hmm.
years. Even though I've had amazing directors and I have had titles that were wonderful, and I know that those directors and those systems are my family,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I will always love them and always be part of them. This was that title that, 20 years ago, when I first heard about it, I was like, this is what I want to do. Um, so now, like, I feel like that whole fulfillment is kind of set in. So what do I do? How do I set everybody else up for success? And
Mm-hmm.
I have had, stepping back and kind of like being out of the limelight for a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess it's been 2 months, but still, like I've had queens reach out and go, "Hey, what are you doing? Like, where have you been?" I'm like, retired ish. Because this is a lifetime achievement award. So even though it's not a competed title, it is the honor that I applied for. I was able to get. I'm grateful to be Ms. Achievement Universe, but it is not a competed for title. So, um, I don't. I feel that the queens that are wearing the crown are the people that need to have that glory and be lifted up. So
Mm-hmm.
just like yourself, like your job as a title holder is to make sure that it doesn't stop at where you have gotten that elevator to. That elevator needs to
Right.
keep going up and you need to keep growing it so that other women have that opportunity to be successful from your success.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's my legacy, even if it has to be a sacrifice. Some people felt like I sacrificed plenty of titles that I've competed for because I decided to compete with my natural hair, but it's not a sacrifice. That's literally my legacy. Being
Right.
able to encourage people to be their authentic self, to be real with who they are, you know, because pageantry ends for some of us, you know, if you decide not to compete. And really, the bigger part about it is who you are, the person who's competing, not that the competition, you know. So in that space, you have to know that you are inspiring and influencing and men who will go on beyond pageantry and do even greater things, and that their journey doesn't just end here. So I think that that's probably been my greatest legacy, what I'm most grateful for. And I'm so grateful that you just got to sometimes be bold in life. You know, like sometimes you have to have the courage to do it, because it takes you to a different path, but it takes other people who watch you to a different path. So many times I've seen people do something and that has inspired me immediately to make a whole life change. And I can only imagine who I've been able to inspire as well to just make a whole life change and do something completely different just because they saw me just, you know, cultivating my dreams, cultivating my talents, birthing gifts. Like that is probably the hardest thing to do. I feel like one of the hardest things to do, to know that you have something in you and to birth that to the world so that the rest of the world can see what you know you have.
Yes.
Um, it takes time, it takes energy, it takes mentorship, it takes effort, it takes obsession, you know, and your craft,
A
you know.
lot, not a lot of sleep sometimes, like a whole it
Yes,
takes people telling you that you're a failure, it takes people bullying you, it takes people it happens, like,
yes, yes,
and all of
bullying.
this bullying. You would
Hmm.
think that as adults we wouldn't have that, but yet it exists,
Yes.
and it's because people see you being successful at something that they told you you couldn't do, and you
Hmm.
go, "Yeah, really? Watch me."
Right. And then they see you doing it, not only just doing it, but doing it exceptionally well. You know, then they really don't know what to do, because sometimes it triggers something in them that they didn't feel like they could do too.
Right.
And I think that that's a space where you just have to continue to encourage people and say, well, you still can do it too. You
Maybe
know,
we
and
need to do something together because this seems that we have this same, like, feel. Like, I it's important to have
yes,
that
no, I'm down for that
public
too.
conversation, because but we have the same feel about what we do. I always say
Mhm.
to people, and I learned this from a psychologist. If if it feels uncomfortable, lean into the discomfort because that means that
Mhm.
you're about to fall off the edge into something fantastic. So if it's scary, if
Yeah.
it feels that is your fight or flight kicking in that makes you go, nope, I don't, nope, 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 nope. If you take the plunge, and many, many times I have done it and thought, and thought to myself, this is crazy. I don't know why I'm doing this. Um, Pageantry now is one of those moments where I just went, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I think I need to do it, and just dove into it. And
Mhm.
honestly, for for many, many months of doing a show every single day, the first year that I did it, it it wasn't a great success from the standpoint of interviewing title holders, but it was a great success for people connecting with an idea of pageantry that no one in the world had at that point, because
Mhm.
I was doing a show on You Now. So I did a show every day at 8 o'clock. And for 1 hour, I just talked about pageants. Like, who did that? No,
Mhm.
nobody. But it enabled me to learn, what's lighting. Like, I mean, all the things. I mean, there's so much to it that we just don't see that happens behind the scenes. And
Yeah.
so much when that fear kicks in, that stops us from living and stops us from um moving into the next thing. So I had a discussion with a friend of mine yesterday, two of my friends actually in their 50s, both having that anxiety of like, wait, something's not finished, and I'm having it too. Like, I'm at that place
Mhm.
right now where I'm like, okay, what do I do now? Like, I did the things that I wanted to do. Well, what do I do now? So that's kind of
Mhm.
where midlife crisis comes from. And then I had this epiphany last night. No, it is not where midlife crisis comes from. It comes from achieving a goal, finishing that goal, and then going, what's next on the bucket list? What next is the next dream that I
Right.
need to be able to accomplish? What is that next thing that I need to do? And finding that space of what do you do next? So that's kind of where you're at now with with that 5 week period, this is going forward, but you are already coming up with the what's next.
Yes, yeah, and I think I mean a lot of what my what's next will be is just encouraging women who are going to come after me. I loved the Miss Black International Ambassador pageant when it was actually Miss Black U.S. Ambassador, and I would tell queens to go and compete, and they'd be like, oh, that sounds cool, but USA or America, and I was like, okay, people are not going to listen to me unless I do it myself. And not only that, it was also the answer to what I felt like I needed, just to kind of circle back to what you were saying earlier. And it was just so important. And I think now that people are seeing my experiences and what I've known this organization to be for a long time, I think it has really encouraged them to be able to step outside their comfort zone, reset what their standard of beauty is and what their standard is for what pageants they want to compete in general, and take that leap of faith. And honestly, I 100% believe it'll be a positive one, because it has been a positive one for me for sure. And as I move forward into my next steps in life, I know that NBIA has been an incredible part of that. You'll see me doing hosting at different red carpet events and things that I've done throughout this year. NBIA has been instrumental in helping me set those up, not just for my title holder year, but for years to come after I'm no longer Miss Black International Ambassador or the reigning Miss Black International Ambassador. I'll always be Miss Black International Ambassador, but for 2021 and 2022. But it's just been an incredible experience, and NBIA has also been phenomenal in helping me with acting and other entertainment spaces. Like, a lot of times, another thing that I feel like should be a standard, and one of the reasons why I chose Miss Black International Ambassador is because I knew that, one, I would have Black women who were going to be my directors, and I hadn't had that in my 12 years of pageantry, which truly speaks to the fact that we don't just need diversity and representation, but in leadership, right? And then I also felt like, it was connected to the Stephen Marjorie Harvey Foundation, and also connected to the United States of Women organization that came out of the White House. And I thought that that was amazing, because it's the only pageant to be connected to that organization. And of course, the international partnerships with schools in Africa, and being able to have an international experience, something that I had not had before. And even more so, just being able to be a part of a pageant who is not just about, bringing in the next queen, but making sure that when you leave, you have things in your toolbox that you can utilize to move forward and do something incredible beyond the reign. So I've really been able to be guided and supported in such a beautiful way. And I know that that'll be a part of my legacy, but also a part of my future. Being able to forge my path in hosting, and forge my path in entertainment, and acting and speaking and entrepreneurship, all those things my pageant has been so instrumental in. And also, I want to say, like, big props to NBIA, because I currently have two businesses, Cierra Jackson Consulting, where I train queens and students and businesses to, just step into their greatness and help them with their presentations, their media, their interviews, just anything that's outward facing to the community to make them a stronger, asset in our community. But then also I have Sierra's Corner, where we have evening gowns and earrings that we have for women from all different walks of life. And so many times I've wanted the support from my pageant organizations, but have not received them. And it wasn't until I competed for Miss Black International Ambassador that they literally supported and encouraged me within the space of entrepreneurship and the path that I was taking beyond pageantry. And it was so beautiful, but it also highlighted the fact that a lot of times we're competing in pageantry organizations that don't support the businesses that we have, or who we are, and the path that we want to take for our lives. And if pageantry is not doing that, then is it even reaching the true core value of what it says it wants to be, a place where it encourages and empowers women? So if your pageant's not doing that, then that's something that you also have to consider in terms of, is this pageant really upholding the standard of what I want to be a part of? And how can I be in a space where my pageant will encourage me in that space and support me in that way?
Absolutely. I mean, and now my brain is like, okay, how do we hire you? Like, and I
But
say
for
we,
I
I'm
mean,
not. And I talk about it for Dr. World Productions and Ms. Achievement World, is like, there is a part of me that feels like there is a business side to pageantry, which absolutely is a business side. Like that's what it's for. But at the bigger part of it, I feel that the heart of it shouldn't be the business side of it. There are plenty of directors are out there that, you know, are always in the red because they are giving their heart and their soul and their energy to help support the women that they clearly are there for. Uh,
Hmm.
and and it shouldn't be that they're in the red because they should have that support from other businesses that are in this or in this industry as well. But none of us are doing it for free. So like that is the one thing about pageantry that I always look at is like it's not an inexpensive sport. But
Hmm.
and Diana Lawrence, Dr. Diana Lawrence is the director of Dr. World. Um, she has a doctorate, but she's a doctorate in education. So she is one of those people that, like myself, that don't have a lot of money. So what systems can we compete in if we don't have the sponsorships? What systems can we compete in if we don't have the money to be able to put into it to have that look? And that's
Hmm.
one of the things that I love about it is that she wants to make it so that it's accessible to everybody. Even though it is a virtual pageant, part of the reason that it's virtual is because then you don't have to worry about flying somewhere and putting yourself up and hair and makeup when you get there and all of those things that are costly.
Hmm.
Is there anything down competition? Yes, but could you buy something from Ross? Yes. you
Hmm.
know I won in a gown that was a hand me down. Like, I mean, so I know with Sierra's closet, it's the same idea, is that
Corner.
you
Hmm.
so Sierra's core, sorry,
It's
that
okay.
you are working to be able to help other people get to what they need, and do it
Mhm.
in a way that is cost effective.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think that's
Sorry,
just so important. It's
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I mean, I just think it's so important. I just really encourage queens. Like, if you want to know if a pageant's going to be supportive, look at the queens who come before you and see if that pageant has supported women who have businesses. Have they
Right.
shouted them out? Have they, shared like for instance their businesses? Or I know Chesley had White Collar Glam. Have you seen them support that? Like, what are the ways where you can see that being supported, tangibly in these different goals. There's so many different incredible women who have businesses. I know Victoria from my year, she was Miss Pennsylvania. She has White Elephant.
Right. Yeah.
Imani, Miss Washington USA. She has so many incredible businesses. I know that she had her boutique as well as a podcast, the Dear Imani podcast, and there's so many different people. I know Samantha Nealon had her coaching business, but like really considering, are these pageant organizations going to show you love and support you in these businesses, and how are they going to do it? And they should make space to do it if their goal is to mentor and empower women. You can't say you're mentoring and empowering women if when they have businesses you don't support them or you intentionally block them. And those
Right.
are things that really happen in the pageantry world. So I think it's so great that Diana has been supportive of you in pageantry now, and it seems that she's even supportive of you in what you do moving forward. So I think that every woman, every person needs to find a space where, if you're going to devote a year or more of your life, energy, talents, efforts, and time. I think I might have said time twice, but time.
It is no, it's a job, and that's the thing that people don't recognize. This is not easy,
Yeah.
and I think that sometimes women go into it going, "Oh, I'll compete and I'll win and I'll wear a crown and it's going to be fun and I'll do parades and I'll meet people and then I'll be famous and then I'll be walking New York Fashion Week."
Hmm.
Um, you know, I've been doing this a long time and I've had, this is my eighth international title.
Hmm.
And I didn't walk New York Fashion Week until 2019. Still not famous, still have not made any money doing it. Um, and you know what? That's okay, because when I got to the heart of it and I realized that it was about service and that it was about commitment to other people, that that's when all of the other stuff just wasn't important anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and I think
bring that.
that's your heart. Like you're definitely a philanthropist, and you definitely want to serve. So I can see that in you. And even for anyone, I think it's really just about strategy. If you want to find a space where you're able to make money in pageantry, there is a space for that. But if you
Yeah,
want to be able to just serve, there is a space for that. Like you just have to find what you want to do and how. And even if you want to do a blend of those, which is kind of what I feel like I do. Um,
yeah,
that there's a space for that too. So just finding the time to be able to invest in yourself if you're going to invest your time into it, and making sure that the organizations that you do invest all of your resources in also invest back to you. That's not a hard thing to ask in return, and it should be a standard in anything that we do.
I agree. All right.
Yeah.
I am loving this conversation. Unfortunately, I have to go to work. I have a job.
Don't we all? I feel like I have a long laundry list of things I
And
have
I
to
feel like
do
we didn't
today.
even like touch the base. Like we didn't even get to everything. Like there's so much. Like you and I could do this on a weekly basis and still be. And so tell me about how you feel about that.
Yes, we really could.
I
We just
know.
have to find the right time for it.
To be able to do it. All right. So moving forward, let's just talk really quick about what you have to do moving forward, and then how do we follow um, the pageant, being able to follow your successor, and all of that stuff. So,
Yes, for sure. So things that you can do that you can follow that I'm doing moving forward. Number one, I'm having a masterclass September 17th. That is a part of Cierra Jackson Consulting, also known as CJC, where you can learn all the tricks and tips that I've learned over the past 12, now probably 13 years of pageantry of my adult life, that I'm literally sharing to be able to help you through your journey. It is not exclusive to any pageant system. So if you're from any pageant system, you can come out and be a part of it. It's going to be on September 17th. You'll see more information about that coming soon today. And then you also can DM me if you want to know more information about that too. In addition to that, the It's Her Power Conference is officially coming back for its third year, which I'm super excited about. It's Her Power is my platform where I encourage women to be leaders and men to utilize their power to advocate for women too. So that'll be coming to you soon on October 8th. It is a virtual conference, but we're looking into some hybrid opportunities as well. So virtual and in person if you're in the Georgia area. In addition to that, we also have New York Fashion Week that's coming up next week. I will be there. Definitely check out my Yes, for that coming up soon. The pageant, of course, is October 12th through the 17th in Atlanta, Georgia. You definitely want to check that out and come out. It's a phenomenal experience. And I think that that's about everything that's kind of happening coming up. So definitely DM me. You can find more about me at Cierra D. Jackson on Instagram, or Cierra Jackson. That's CIERRA Jackson.com, where you can find pretty much all of my Facebook, YouTube, just all of my content right there, and just get to know more about me. And if you have any questions about coaching or evening gowns, you can check out Cierra Jackson Consulting for coaching, and Sierra's Corner for any information about evening gowns and earrings. We've had queens from all over the world, and even our incredible Miss USA 2019 Chesley Chris donned some earrings from Sierra's Corner, and so many other incredible queens too. So definitely tap into that and learn more about that too.
an MBIA. How do we follow MBI?
Yes, and you can find MBIA at MBIA Pageant. Yes, 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 of course. That's the main one too, right? MBIA Pageant on Instagram, Miss Black International Ambassador Pageant on Facebook, the MBIA Pageant.com for the website. You can learn more about me and all of my sister queens, who we are so eloquently called this year the Phenomenal Four. Last year, I guess it was like a quartet of four queens was called the Fab Five. So this year we're the Phenomenal Four. In addition to that, you can also learn more about our director, our new director, Sierra Thompson. We have the exact same name, different last names, but her information is at Let the World See, spelled CIE at the end. And her production company is LTWC _productions. And then our founder, Patrice Empowers or Patrice Harrison. She's on Instagram at Patrice Empowers, and you can find out more information about her there. And then Miss Black International Ambassador is under a nonprofit called Ambassadors of Change, a 501c3 organization. And you can find more about Ambassadors of Change at AOCINC. So Ambassadors of Change, Inc.
The one thing I forgot to ask too, the areas of competition I know, but the divisions. So there are 4 queens. So what are the
Yes.
divisions?
Mhm.
Teen,
We have 4
Miss,
queens: teen, miss, Ms., and Mrs. So, your teenagers from, I think, 14 to 18 before you are a college freshman. Your miss from 18 to 29. Your Ms., which is either maybe you have a kid but you're not married, or you have been married but you've been divorced but you're currently a single woman now. And that division, I think, is from 25 and up to maybe about 60 or so. And then your MRS, your Mrs. Queens as well, which is just for your married women.
awesomeness. I think you and I could do a whole nother show together because, like, I just realized as we're talking about that is like, oh, there's so many things that we can unpack just about the fact that the system has 4 different divisions, and then certain systems are now adding opportunities to be able to compete with that. So that's a whole nother discussion. All right. I am
Yes.
grateful.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. Well, yeah, that's true. That's true.
You
But I'm just
know, like,
grateful that,
yeah,
what'd you say?
go ahead. I was just
I'm
saying,
just
yeah,
grateful
that's
that they're open to it.
great.
Wait, I'm sorry.
You're it.
What'd
You're
you say?
I said, tag, you're it. So what do you think about the
No, I heard you. I mean, I definitely think it's a different space. It's definitely something that is new, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it still doesn't touch on the point that we talked about earlier, which is ageism, which Chesley spoke about, which we spoke about, which I think is also a greater space as well. And maybe they will change that, but also if they don't change that, don't hang your hat on it. There's so many other organizations who make space for you. Consider those versus just trying to make organizations that have not currently made space for you to make space for you, and like wasting, I don't want to say wasting time, but putting your dreams and talents on hold, waiting for an organization when there are other organizations that have already, who are waiting for you,
like
Mhm.
this, like your title that needs you, loves you, respects you, gives you glory, gives you grace. Those are all the things that you want. So
Yes, for sure, for sure.
I'm so glad you found a
Yes.
place.
Thank you. And I hope that it leads other women here too. I know that my pageantry career has been very eventful, and I want people to be able to see it and be even guided by it in a way, to be able to make their own path, but also to be able to see opportunities that were positive for me.
I agree. All right, hold tight. I'm gonna wrap up, and then I will finish discussing with you before I have to go to work. So hold on.
Yes, one more thing, Stacey, I was going to say, I also encourage everyone, if you ever have a goal or a dream, if it's a CEO, NBA player, or even a beauty queen, make sure you at least talk to someone who's done it before. Don't ever put anything on your vision board without at least talking to someone or hearing an interview or connecting with them, because you really don't know what their experiences are until you get to have the chance to sit down and talk with them. So I encourage everyone to reach out to me, reach out to any queen that you want to compete for her title for, or any CEO that you want to be like, to make sure you actually know what's required, what it's going to be like, and if you might even like it or not. Those are really important things that I think we all have to do when we're creating our paths, and having just the proper mentorship and guidance along the way.
I agree. That was one of the things. Every single one of the queens that competed for my title, I reached out to them when they crowned and made sure that they knew anything they wanted to know, that I was open to be able to give them that information and hopefully help guide them. So each one of them got time with me personally so that they knew what my standard was, not necessarily the pageants, but what my standard was and what I felt was important about the system. So I think that that's important, that you have the opportunity to be able to talk to the person that has that job, whatever that job
Mm-hmm.
is.
Yes,
So
exactly.
agreed. All right, hold tight, babe.
Mhm.
All right, everybody. That was so fantastic. I love Sierra. She's awesome. We could do this for hours. Unfortunately, I mean, we have personally we've done it for hours, but I don't want you all to. For those of you that are listening, thank you so much. For those of you that joined us today, we are grateful for all of you. Make sure if you haven't already to please like, follow, subscribe. And now we have a podcast, so you can listen in your car, which sometimes people do. We appreciate all of you. I can have these great conversations by myself, but it's so much more fun when we have people that are actively listening, asking questions, participating in the conversation. So to all the crownies out there, thank you so much. I appreciate everybody. Have a great day. Stay safe. That's a wrap.